Augusta, Georgia, August 1990. The summer heat pressed down as twin sisters Danette and Jeanette Holloway, just 15 years old, finished their evening shift at Morrison's family restaurant. It should have been an ordinary Tuesday night, an 18-minute walk home along a familiar route. But somewhere between the restaurant's glass door and their mother's front porch, the twins vanished without a trace. For 33 years, their disappearance haunted this southern community. This is the story of how persistence, advancing forensic science, and one family's refusal to forget finally brought answers, and a killer, to light. On August 14, 1990, Danette and Jeanette clocked out at 8:07 p.m. Security footage captured them leaving Morrison's, their matching denim jackets tied around their waists, pockets heavy with tips they'd earned bussing tables and refilling sweet tea. They were counting down the weeks until their sophomore year at Glen Hills High School. The walk home was one they'd made hundreds of times, 1.2 miles through safe neighborhoods where porch lights glowed and children's bikes lay on front lawns. But by 9:30, when neither girl had arrived home or called, their mother Evelyn felt dread settle into her bones. By 11 p.m., her voice was hoarse from calling their names as she searched the route, and she was on the phone with the Richmond County Sheriff's Department. Two 15-year-old girls had simply vanished. The twins were inseparable but distinct. Danette, older by 4 minutes, dreamed of studying pre-law at Spelman College. Jeanette wanted to be a veterinarian and filled notebooks with animal sketches. Neither had boyfriends or troubles that might explain a disappearance. They were just good kids finishing a shift, heading home to their mother's peach cobbler and questions about their evening. Within hours, the community mobilized. Over 300 volunteers formed search parties, combing every inch of the area. The First Baptist Church became a command center, but despite the massive effort, there were no screams reported, no signs of struggle. Only 3 witnesses who'd seen a dark sedan, make and model uncertain, idling near Broad and Hickman around 8:15 p.m. The lack of evidence was complete. No crime scene, no bodies, no witnesses to what actually happened. Just an absence so total it seemed impossible. Lead Detective Frank Morrison coordinated the investigation from an office covered in maps. Red pins marked the restaurant. Blue pins traced the route home. Yellow pins showed searched areas. But the map revealed only questions. The dark sedan sightings led investigators to 3 persons of interest, each eventually cleared, but never fully eliminated from suspicion. Marcus Delacqua, a delivery driver, owned a dark blue Chevrolet that matched one description. His timeline was ambiguous, but there was no evidence against him. Jerome Williams, a 28-year-old construction foreman, drove a black Ford Taurus and had been seen near Morrison's multiple times. More concerning was his 1988 domestic violence arrest, though charges had been dropped. Williams had no alibi for August 14th. He claimed he was home alone. His polygraph was inconclusive. A search of his vehicle found nothing, but his volatile temper kept him on the suspect list. Robert Chen, a photographer who'd taken the twins' school portraits, drove a burgundy sedan. He'd been working alone in his darkroom that evening, with no way to prove it. Police found he'd kept copies of the twins' portrait proofs, which he claimed was standard practice, but made investigators deeply uncomfortable. All 3 men were questioned extensively. None could be charged. Detective Morrison later said, "I knew one of those men probably held the answer, but knowing and proving are different universes in law enforcement." As autumn arrived, the FBI scaled back involvement. Media coverage dwindled. The massive search parties shrank to a dedicated core of family and friends. For Evelyn Holloway, a 38-year-old nurse who'd raised 3 children alone, the investigation's decline felt like losing her daughters twice. She transformed her dining room into a command center that would remain operational for 3 decades. She printed missing persons posters at her own expense. She attended every town hall meeting about community safety. She founded a support group for families of missing persons. But the investigation had hit an insurmountable wall. Without physical evidence, no crime scene, no bodies, even revolutionary DNA technology that emerged in the 1990s had nothing to test. The case went cold in 1993. Time moved differently for the Holloway family. While Augusta evolved and modernized, their household remained frozen in August 1990. Evelyn kept the twins' bedroom exactly as they'd left it. Unmade beds, textbooks open to pages they'd never finish reading. She changed the sheets weekly in a room no one used, maintaining it for a homecoming that would never occur. Marcus Holloway, 13 when his sisters vanished, watched his mother age a decade in a single year. She slept 4 hours a night, spending the rest poring over case files. Her hair went gray, deep lines carved her face, but she never stopped searching. Marcus joined the Richmond County Sheriff's Department in 2000 with a singular purpose: to solve his sister's case. He eventually headed the cold case unit, driven by both professional duty and personal mission. Every August 14th, Evelyn organized a candlelight vigil. Hundreds attended in early years. By the 2000s, only dozens came. Eventually, just family and faithful friends remained. But Evelyn's message never changed. Someone knows what happened to my daughters, and until they speak, I will keep asking. The case was reviewed periodically as new technologies emerged, but each review reached the same frustrating conclusion. Without new evidence, it remained unsolvable. The 3 original persons of interest were re-interviewed over the years. Delacroix died in a car accident in 2003. Williams served time for assault in 2007, but was never charged with anything related to the twins. Chen moved to Florida in 2010. By 2020, Evelyn was 71 and in failing health. Time was running out. November 9, 2023. A construction crew preparing to demolish an old warehouse on Industrial Boulevard made a grim discovery during excavation. Buried beneath the concrete foundation were skeletal remains. 2 sets, positioned side by side, clearly young victims. Deputy Sarah Chen secured the scene immediately. When she called it in, she mentioned something that made Detective Marcus Holloway's world tilt: 2 tarnished silver heart necklaces with inscriptions. Birthday gifts from their mother in 1989, each engraved with a twin's name and birth date. Marcus called his mother before driving to the scene. The conversation lasted 30 seconds. Neither could trust their voices beyond the essential information. Remains found, necklaces present, waiting for confirmation. As forensic anthropologists carefully recovered every bone and fabric fragment, investigators examined the warehouse's construction history. Building permits revealed that in August 1990, an emergency concrete pour had been authorized to repair foundation issues. The contractor's name detonated in Marcus's mind like a flashbang: Jerome Williams, one of the original 3 persons of interest. The construction foreman with a history of violence and no alibi for August 14, 1990. Forensic examination confirmed what investigators already knew: 2 female skeletons, approximately 15 years old, wearing denim and cotton that matched the twins' clothing descriptions. But the breakthrough came from soil analysis. Samples contained traces of a specific industrial adhesive discontinued in 1995 after health concerns. Purchase records showed Jerome Williams's construction company had been a primary buyer of that adhesive in the Augusta area during 1990. The case accelerated with sudden momentum. Then Williams' ex-wife contacted the tip line. After 33 years, Linda Williams was finally ready to speak about that August night when her husband came home covered in red clay and concrete dust, with deep scratches on his arms. Linda Martinez, formerly Linda Williams, testified about the night of August 14, 1990. Her husband had returned home near midnight, unusual for a Tuesday. His clothes were stained with clay and concrete dust. The next morning, she noticed deep scratches on his arms, like fingernail scratches. When she asked about them, his anger frightened her into silence. In the weeks after the twins disappeared, Jerome had become paranoid about news coverage. He'd forbidden Linda from speaking to police. Most disturbingly, he'd insisted on attending a vigil for the missing twins, wanting to know what people were saying, what police knew. After we divorced, Linda testified, I kept thinking about that night: the clay, the scratches, the paranoia. I wondered if I'd been married to a monster. The evidence was overwhelming. Williams had opportunity. working at the burial site during the exact time frame. He had means, access to equipment and materials to conceal bodies beneath fresh concrete. And now there was evidence of consciousness of guilt. Jerome Williams was arrested on November 18, 2023. In his storage unit, investigators found newspaper clippings about the disappearance, carefully preserved in plastic sleeves, organized chronologically. His work journal was missing the page for August 14th, but forensic examiners could read impressions on the page beneath. Warehouse, foundation, emergency pour, and chillingly, no one will know. The trial began March 4, 2024. Evelyn Holloway, now 74 and frail, attended every day in the same navy dress she'd worn to her daughter's 15th birthday party. After 7 hours of deliberation, the jury returned guilty verdicts on both counts of first-degree murder. Jerome Williams was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without parole. Evelyn lived just long enough to see justice served. She passed away peacefully 3 months later, a photograph of her daughters on her lap. The vacant lot where the warehouse stood became a memorial park dedicated to missing persons. A granite monument bears the twins' names with the inscription, "Gone but never forgotten, found but never replaced." Jerome Williams died in prison in November 2025, less than 2 years after his conviction. Marcus Holloway continues his work in cold case investigation, teaching that persistence matters, that cases are never truly cold as long as someone refuses to forget. Danette and Jeanette Holloway remain forever, 15 in photographs and memories, but their legacy proves that justice, even delayed by 33 years, can still arrive, and that the simple act of refusing to forget can illuminate the darkness for others seeking their way home.